Welcome to the BusinessSpeak Podcast, where we take everything you need to know about being successful in business and make it easy to understand. Whether you're a longtime business owner, newer to this entrepreneur stuff, or hoping to run your own company in the future, you've come to the right place. Featuring your host, professional accountant and business guru, Mr. Chill. So relax and have some fun with us as we journey through Business Speak, the language of business, simplified.
Well, hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Business Speak Podcast. I'm your host, Mr. Chill, also known as Corey, and I am excited to welcome our guest today. Joining us, we have Laina Neudorf, and I'm excited to get to know her a little bit better, along with all of you at home. So thank you for listening and watching. Laina, one of the things that we're going to talk about today is something that I think everybody can identify with. And in spoiling a little bit of your bio and some cool tagline stuff that you have, I'm just going to put it out there. If I were to ask a typical business owner, do you ever experience chaos in your business? I'm sure you get 150% hands raising up. Yeah. And then if I asked them, well, how much of you would like to turn that chaos into clarity, you'd probably have a pretty closely equal amount. Mm-hmm. And if I understand things correctly, that's pretty much exactly what you do.
That is exactly
what correct?
I do. It is exactly what I do.
Is that fun?
I love it. I do. I really do. So I get like it's like a driving thing for me to be able to help business owners, because we get so stuck in this whole concept of running a business that we sometimes get disillusioned with why we started it in the first place, right? Because there's just too many things going on. So it becomes okay, let's stop, let's take a breath, let's slow down a little bit, and let's put a method to the madness here. So
cool.
Yeah.
So as a teaser, if anyone listening has ever experienced chaos in their business or chaos in their life because they're running a business, or maybe they know someone who runs a business and would define things as chaotic at times, this would probably be a pretty useful episode to pay attention to, and we can all learn from Laina. Now, I have a bio that you sent me. I'm going to read it, but then I would like you to tell me and embellish anything that you want to.
Sure.
All right. So here is Laina's official bio, and then she can make it more fun and exciting than I do. With a passion for turning chaos into clarity, success strategist Laina Neudorf provides the innovative, actionable plans and strategic insights that empower her clients to take control of their businesses and achieve their goals while building fulfilling lives. With over 20 years of experience spanning the technological, construction, and petroleum industries, Laina has honed her expertise in project management, logistics, and operational efficiency. The founder of LPT Success Solutions, she is known for her specialized support of your business, guiding you to break through roadblocks at every stage, whether it's scaling a startup, enhancing productivity, or shifting mindset. Laina's hands-on approach helps clients excel at navigating challenges, streamlining operations, and driving meaningful results. If you're ready to achieve the success you deserve, maximizing revenue while minimizing stress, and creating the life of your dreams, then Laina Neudorf is here to guide and support you every step of the way. I'm going to read your tagline in a second, but I just want to say, I can't think of anybody listening to this who like, you know what, dibs out. That ain't for me. Right, let's read this again. Success you deserve. Who wants that? Only probably everyone. Maximizing revenue and minimizing stress. Again, probably everyone. Creating the life of your dreams. Yes, please. And support every step of the way. So you seem like a pretty amazing person to know. Now, Laina's tagline says this: launch with confidence, peak with efficiency, transcend with certainty. Now, something I think is really, really cool and a little bit unique about your business name. So a lot of times when I meet business owners and they have acronyms in their name, usually it's part of their name. I mean, I'm not any different. I'm like, my accounting firm is chill group with being my first initial and my last name. It just happens to spell a fun word.
Yeah.
But I have a lot of clients and stuff, and a lot of the business out there will have 2 or 3 initials and an acronym. And what does that stand? Well, it's all of our kids' first names or something that's all about the names of the people in it. Yours is a little bit unique in that way.
Mm-hmm.
LPT has nothing to do with your name, although maybe I'm going to find there's a really cool double tie-in. But,
if there was, I wish it would have. I wish there would be.
But your name is all about your why. It is. It describes exactly what you do and why you do it.
Right. So again,
why don't you elaborate on that?
Well, so there's a bit of a tie in there too, because I believe that as a business owner, if you want to be successful, you have to be intentional, right? So when you think about naming your business, there also has to be intention behind it, and there's meaning for me, right? Launch, peak, transcend is what I've identified as sort of the 3 different seasons of a business. Launch being the startup phase, peak being sort of that, all right, well, I'm running a business, but let's get some efficiency, let's really amp it up. And then transcend is the exit piece. Now what next? Am I retiring? Am I starting a new business? What does that look like? And it also plays really well with the vision I have of like mountains. I love the mountains, right? So it's all about relaying it back to that personal piece, right? So, and when you think of launch, peak, transcend, you can visualize a mountain range, which is really important to me. So, yeah.
I actually never kind of consider that. The mountain, almost like a analogy and a setting and like a kind of perfect visual.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
Intention. It's a beautiful thing.
So you practice what you help other people with. You're kind of setting a good example that way. I know one of the things you're excited to tell, and I want to give you as much time as you want to tell it, is your why. So maybe before we do that, let's back up for just a brief second. And if someone comes up to you off the street and say, Laina, what do you do? How do you tell people in a paragraph what it is that you do?
Oh, you know what? And that's a challenging one for me sometimes. So I guess my qualifying question for people is, I tell them I'm a business consultant. Then I say, well, that's about as vague as it can be. So let me help you out a little bit. And then I say success strategist. Okay, we're getting there, but we're still not where we need to be. So I look them in the eye and I say, listen, Corey, do you have too much time and too much money?
How many times do you get a yes to that question?
None.
Okay,
because if the answer is no, you need my help. And if the answer is yes, then I need to have a different conversation with you because I want to know what you're doing. So yeah, I mean, it's all about, it's about efficiency. It's about helping people optimize. That's really what it comes down to, and figuring out how to do that. It's a really systematic approach, but it's not a cookie cutter approach. So, I mean, like there's a way I do things, but you really have to get to know a business owner and their challenges in order to be able to understand how to help them, because everybody's got different challenges and success looks different to everybody, right? Sure. So, I mean, some people want the yacht, but I'm finding a lot more business owners these days they want more time freedom. That's the thing that we struggle with the most. And time freedom usually leads to more money freedom as well, right? So that's what I do. I help people get there.
So you start off by telling people you're a business consultant or business coach, and that's like, well, that's like, who isn't anybody?
Right.
And so then you're like, okay, well, let's get down to some specifics of what I actually do.
Yeah.
But high level, you basically help people solve their business related problems.
Correct. Yes.
That's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now that we kind of have that as a backdrop,
mm-hmm.
now that everyone's like, oh, wonder how she's going to do that. Can you help us understand? And again, the passion is great. I can already feel it. Why are you in this business? Why did you choose to do this? Why do you get up and go to work every day? What's your why?
Well, every business owner has a catalyst, right? There's always a reason that you start your business. Sometimes it's an idea, sometimes it's a feeling, sometimes it's a situation that causes you to start your business. In my case, it was a combination of things. This concept has been ruminating in my brain for about a decade, but I was in a situation where I was unexpectedly thrown from a cliff in the fall and chose to take that as my opportunity to start my own business instead of continuing.
Safe to assume it's not a literal cliff?
No, it wasn't a literal cliff. No, I mean,
you're doing remarkably well.
No broken bones here.
Okay.
No, I just I was in, the corporate type of environment for over 20 years, and I got into a situation where I was working for a company that wasn't a fit. It was a very obvious non-fit between what I was doing and what they wanted from me. And so I lost my job. And it was terrifying because I'm a single mom. I have 2 little boys, and it was like, oh my goodness, what now? And then this whole thing percolated up to the top. Wait a minute, you've been thinking about doing something on your own for a long time, and all of the years that you've spent in corporate and in industrial construction, working 10, 12, 14, 16 hours a day, not really getting anywhere, doing the up, down, side to side, making other people money, and missing all of the things in my kids' lives. So I wanted to do my own thing for the reasons that I wanted to spend more time with my kids, and I wanted to decide how much money I was going to make.
And so losing your job, which probably was horrible at the time, might have actually been a blessing.
It was absolutely a blessing in disguise. And, that's the human condition though, right? You get faced with this fork in the road, right? There's the crossroads, and it's about optimizing adversity instead of cowering to it, right? So, on the one side, you can choose to wallow in self-pity and blame your circumstances for a host of bad choices, or you can look at those things as a lesson that's telling you you're in the wrong place. What is it that you should be doing? And that's what I did. I chose to take that particular lesson from a really crappy situation and turn it into the catalyst for being able to help business owners, right? And I've always had kind of a sixth sense for being able to flesh out inefficiencies, to see inefficiencies. So
where do you think that comes from?
I don't know where it comes from, but I just know that in every single job I've been in the past, in the 20 years I've been at, they've needed 2 or 3 people to replace me when I left. So
make you feel pretty good?
Yeah, well, but it's just about being able to see what can be done better, right? So I know that I'm good at that, and I want to be able to help business owners so that they can experience that freedom and that success.
I'm going to assume that you find, and maybe I'm getting ahead of ourselves here, but I'm going to assume that you might find that though the business industries are different and maybe the people in it are different, that the problems are probably similar, and therefore a potential approach to solving those problems are likely similar. Like if you were engaged to help someone who maybe was in a computer, like an IT industry or in some other industry that maybe you haven't directly worked in, but they I have a problem, and you're like, good, I can help you with that. Yeah. Because again, your experience, even though it may not be specific to that industry, would, to use a word from your own vocabulary, transcend into a lot of different situations.
Absolutely. I mean, that's one of the things that I tell people when they ask me what industry I work with primarily. I say, listen, I'm industry agnostic because business challenges are business challenges. I mean, the application of the solutions is different, and the approach might be different, but business challenges, generally speaking, a lot of, depending on like the industry, doesn't necessarily dictate what the problems are. So.
Okay. Anything else regarding your why that you want to make sure you mention? I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I mean, I just, like I said, I love helping people. I think everybody kind of likes helping people, but we all have to figure out what that thing is that we do, that we can apply to helping others, right?
I'm putting you on the spot here, so if this doesn't work, then I guess we'll see how the editing of this podcast goes. Without using names, can you think of an experience you've had in your running your business in the past couple of years that stands out to you as like I'm going to always cherish this moment?
In my business?
Yeah. When you got a chance to work with someone and you got to be a part of helping them go from somewhere that maybe wasn't great to somewhere that was so much better.
Well,
You're like,
yeah.
I want to remember this.
Yeah, well, I mean, I worked on a strategic plan with a client, and we sat down and we hashed it out, and we had a really great session, and we managed to unlock a 6-figure revenue stream for her on an annual basis, and she wouldn't have uncovered that. And I didn't do that. It was the process that did that, right? And there's no better feeling than poking at a business owner and asking them those challenging questions and really forcing them to think about things in a different way, because we do have tunnel vision sometimes as a business owner, and we sometimes can't see the whole picture. We're not impartial. So having somebody else come in and be like, hey, have you thought about this? And she just, like, her mind was blown. She was so excited about discovering this particular thing that wasn't going to require a whole pile of effort. And I'm happy to say that I've met with her recently, and she's already like doubled down on that initiative, and it's now becoming an even larger undertaking, but it's going to have immense rewards for her. So yeah, just fantastic feeling to see that light bulb go off in your clients, and just, that aha moment, and know that you had a part of that. It's really rewarding.
100%. We're going to have a chance to do something a little bit different today than we typically do, and I'm kind of excited by it. Normally, everything we say is sort of addressed kind of generically to the business owner. Mm-hmm. But I wouldn't mind taking some time to break this down into the similar way to how you've kind of got your business broken down by, we'll call it the 3 stages that you've identified. Mm-hmm. So it might be worth kind of taking a moment towards each of these 3 groups or stages of business owners, and maybe seeing what kind of thoughts or advice or questions they should be asking themselves, or however you would advise them in their particular stage. Mm-hmm. So your first stage is a launch phase, and I'm not sure exactly what time that means. I mean, maybe they're going to start a business tomorrow, they're going to start a business sometime the next year, they've just started one, maybe it's all the above. But let's assume that's I'm thinking about it to I'm going to do it real soon to I just did it. Let's say it's in that range. Yeah. Let's speak to them for a second. What kind of thoughts and questions and comments do you have for that group of business owners?
Okay. Well, the first thing that I would challenge them is, do they have a vision for their business? Do they have a very specific, have they nailed down exactly what it is that they want to do? The how ends up becoming important, but more importantly is, do you know what it is that you want to do? You have an idea, but you have to kind of flesh that out a little bit more and make sure that you can execute on that idea, right?
And what do you say to a business owner who might say something like, I don't know what I want to do. I just knew I didn't want to work for somebody else. Or I kind of fell into this and I don't really know if I have any goals with it. I just kind of trying to figure this out. Like, what if they don't know what their kind of vision is? Is that something that you can help them with? Or how would you help them? How would you advise them to help figure out what it is they do want to do?
Well, I would encourage them to do some internal reflection work and really think about what it is that makes them happy. Because generally speaking, what makes you happy can be translated into a career, and it's going to be the most fulfilling career for you. So figuring out what that is, what your why is, for example, why you're doing it, and then what it is that you really like doing, and running with it, man. That's what I would suggest.
Okay. And if they feel like, I'm in a business, it's technically paying the bills, I'm definitely not passionate about it. Mm-hmm. I don't know what question I'm trying to ask, I guess, but either they can find a way to develop a passion about it, or someone like you could help them figure out how to turn something they are passionate about into their business. Because I've definitely met with a few business owners who are just like, I used to like this, or I thought I was going to like this. No, it's not my thing. I thought it was, but it's just not. And again, maybe you can help reignite passion that maybe was there and they've lost for some reason. And maybe that's a key part of it.
Well, so this is where I would say here's that fork in the road. Because you have two choices at that point. If it's a business that you've established, that you've decided you're not passionate about it, you don't have any desire to gain any passion about it, then you would possibly consider figuring out what your exit strategy is. And if there is, if you started a business, you at one time had a passion for it, theoretically. So that's one of the challenges that I find with business owners is they start a business because they love doing this one thing and they're really good at this one thing, like we talked about in that launch phase. So they get into a position though that now they've started a business, and then all of a sudden you're a business owner, and there's all these other things that come along with being a business owner that you didn't anticipate perhaps. And those are the things that are going to make you become disenchanted with your business and disconnect you from why your passion and why you started it in the first place, right? So it's about understanding how to manage those other pieces. You know, sometimes they can go away. Sometimes they can be, farmed out. You can subcontract some of those pieces out to somebody else. And sometimes you look at where you're spending the most of your time and decide whether or not that's where you should be spending the most of your time. Right?
And I think that should is important, because I think a lot of people say, well, I could do this. And I'm like, I don't disagree with you. I believe you could. But is that how you should be spending your time?
Right, exactly. I mean, and again, it kind of goes back to that efficiency piece, right? Because I'm not an accountant. I would never say I'm an accountant. Could I do my bookkeeping? Yes. Do I do my bookkeeping? Yes. And it's not necessarily the thing I should be doing, but that's it. I mean, you can give it to somebody who will spend 10 times less time on it because that's just the thing they do best and they like doing. And it's going to eliminate so much frustration from you and allow you to get back to doing the thing that you like to do and bringing that passion back, So some tasks can be delegated out to other people, other companies. Some of them can be automated. Some of them can be removed entirely, because if all of a sudden you look at a task that you're doing, some product that you've put a lot of effort into marketing and you're not getting any traction on it, it stings a little bit, but sometimes you just got to cut that one out and focus on the thing that is going to pay the bills, right? So it just depends on how you're spending your time and using it wisely to maximize your efficiency.
I love that one of your first questions you ask someone, especially in the launch phase, is what's your vision? What do you want this to be? I've had so many cool experiences as an accountant meeting with clients, and we may be one of multiple accountants they'll interview, or they've had several and they're still looking for the Mr. or Mrs. Right fit. And it's not that I'll say anything that's remarkably different than anyone else has said, but one of the things I've noticed lately that people have commented a lot is, you're the first one that's asked me what I actually want my business to become. Mm-hmm. You're the first one that was looking beyond, what did we do this past year? What do the financials say? And even though they don't understand why, it feels different. It feels good. It feels exciting that someone is interested in the future of the business, not just reporting on the historical past like accounting and stuff tends to be. Mm-hmm. And just that showing an interest in what they want it to become makes so much difference.
Totally. And that's the thing, like the things that we do are so relationship based, and that, like, even as a business consultant, I can guarantee you I am not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but the people that I am their cup of tea, I am their biggest cheerleader, and they love working with me because that relationship is there, and that trust is there, that comfort is there, and you can't replace that feeling, right? So, I mean, if you meet a professional that you're looking to work with, you have to make sure that you have that connection with them and that they understand you and you understand them. Otherwise, it's just not going to work.
Okay. Any other questions or counsel you would give to someone in the launch phase of their business?
No, I would just say, like, stick with your passion, but you gotta commit. If you decide that you're going to start a business, you have to commit to whatever it is that you decide to do, because you're not going to find success if you put a half effort in.
Do you mind if we dive into that for a second? Because this has actually come up a lot. So I would be very excited to hear your take on this. So I just met with a potential client today who has a really good business idea that she's super passionate about, but like many, she's scared, and particularly scared of the financial stuff. Well, what if I get into this and I just can't afford it? Or what if I just find that the money part doesn't work? And so we were talking about, this is like semantics maybe. We're talking about, do you want to do it as a sole proprietor or do you want to incorporate? And the concept came, well, which one's easier to get out of? And it's like, well, hold on a minute. Like, we may need to revisit this idea of being in business. It was like I'm going to dip my toe in the water, and if it's just right, then I might go a little bit farther. Otherwise, I'm like, dibs out, not for me. How would you tackle that?
No, I mean, being an entrepreneur is not easy. It is hard, but choose your hard is what I would say. I mean, you hear that everywhere, you see that everywhere. You always have choices, right? Working for somebody else can be hard. Starting your own business can be hard. There's choosing your hard. So if you are choosing entrepreneurship, then you have to commit to it, because it's not easy. It's the right thing to do. Like that, I'm going to go back to my origin story, so to speak. I feel like Frodo Baggins or something like that. But I mean, I am a very risk averse person. I would generally categorize myself that way. And I remember feeling, there's that feeling of, this is new, this is scary, but there's something to be said about gut feel, because I would have expected in the situation I was in to have been in a state of dread and panic and anxiety. And I wasn't. I felt totally at peace with my decision to go down this road. And that's how I know that I made the right choice. So if you don't pick something that gives you that, sure, there's the stress and anxiety of the unknown, but if it keeps you awake at night in an absolute state of chaos and panic and I can't sleep and cold sweats, you've probably picked the wrong thing, or you haven't fleshed out your idea well enough yet. Because once you get to that spot, you just know.
Okay. Because I might contrast that a little bit with someone who might take a completely opposite approach, which is I want to go all in, but only when the quote unquote conditions are perfect.
Yeah, well,
and you ain't gonna find.
No, if you wait for the conditions to be right, then you're never gonna start. You gotta just start. But you have to commit to the start. You have to commit to the vision, to the thought, to the idea, to the feeling, to whatever it is. You have to commit to it. So.
Okay, one last question on the business owners in the launch phase then.
Okay.
What are some of the common challenges or hurdles that you've encountered with helping people that are in this phase? Like generically, what are some of the common things that people in the launch phase are typically encountering?
I would say that chaos is really, 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 really prevalent in that particular phase, because generally speaking, there's a lot of business owners that either are starting or have started, and they've just got all of these ideas, all of the plans, and they want to do too many. They're trying to take off too big of a bite at the beginning, and you gotta start small, right? With that one thing. Don't start with 20 things, because then you're not putting 100% of your effort into something. You're splitting your effort into two. You're spreading yourself too thin, and you're not going to be able to know true success in any one of those things, because you're not going to put enough effort to it to be able to achieve what you're looking for. Unless you luck out. I mean, there are certain people that luck out, but I would say that generally that's the exception, not the rule, right?
Okay. So let's move on to the second phase of your kind of business model.
Yeah.
Well, obviously this isn't last night I was in launch phase, now I'm there's obviously a time frame gap here, but maybe this is the next sort of key area where you're like, I can really help this person. They typically encounter this type of problem. I'm really good at helping them with this kind of problem. And for you, have identified that as what you've called the peak.
Yes.
Now, again, going back to your mountain analogy, it's kind of easy to visualize the peak, but in a realistic sense, someone running a business, they're not seeing their business as a mountain. How do they know when they've hit the peak phase? What's some signs that might be the phase of business that the business owner's in?
Right. So I would say that peak phase is more so a plateau for a lot of business owners. Okay. In the sense that you've been running for a while, and one of the common challenges when you're in that phase is, okay, well, I've exhausted my efforts as far as I'm doing all of the things, and I can't possibly get any different results from what I'm doing right now. I'm making money, things are going okay, but I'm not experiencing growth, or like you get kind of that stagnation point where you can continue at the status quo, or you can optimize, right? And most business owners want to optimize. So that's the challenge that they run into. And because they are not impartial, they can't see how to optimize. So it becomes a situation where, I'm doing all of the things, but I'm not getting any more out of the effort that I'm putting in, right? I can't go any further with this particular situation. I have a funny story to tell you about that. So I take my kids on a vacation every summer, and this past summer we went to the mountains, and we were going to the lake, and I stopped at one of the big box stores and picked up like a inflatable dinghy. It was like a 2-person dinghy. It's $20. I'm like, whatever, if we get one use out of this thing, it'll be worth its weight. So we go to the lake, and I hop in this thing, and I've never been in a rowboat before. I've been in a motorized boat, but I've never been in a rowboat before. And I also can't swim. So I got my life jacket on, and I'm literally, I'm away enough from shore that it's deep enough. I can't stand up, and I'm trying to paddle this thing. And my entire family is watching me, because it doesn't matter what my brother-in-law says and how he tries to coach me. I am spinning in circles. I cannot for the life of me straighten this thing out and move forward. I am literally spinning in circles for about 20 minutes, and my entire family is just killing themselves laughing at me. I am getting so frustrated because I just can't figure this out. And finally, I started laughing with them, because like, what are you going to do? Obviously, I'm not wired to run a paddle boat by myself. I can do a kayak with somebody else. Like, the team effort thing works for me. I cannot get out of this infinite loop, though, when I'm by myself in this little dinghy. So I think that's kind of like an analogy for where business owners can be. You get to the point where you're just spinning in circles, and you're not getting anywhere. You might have a business that's successful, but you're not progressing any further. So
I love that analogy. What I was going to say before you told that story is it kind of feels like someone identify or know that they're in this stage if they are feeling extremely busy but not productive. Yeah,
well, exactly. And I mean, the goal is to spend 20% of the time on what's generating 80% of the revenue. That's the goal. So really figuring out how to get that to work for you, putting your effort where you're going to get the return on your time.
Now, and there's a little bit of side tangent, but I know for me, one of the best hiring decisions I've ever made, so hopefully she listens to this podcast and she can feel good about herself, but one of the best hiring decisions I ever made was bringing on my executive assistant. Because I never realized until I had her how many things I was doing that didn't need to be me. But because I was that's how I'd always done things, or I just assumed that's how things had to be, I just kept doing it that way. And I'm like, how do I ever grow if I'm so swamped in all these things? And when I was now paying someone full time to say, please give me more stuff, and it really forced me to look at how am I spending my days, and what am I spending my days on that doesn't actually need to be me? Mm-hmm. And it was really eye-opening. And now she's super busy, and I'm super busy, And it's been a really good thing because now I know the things I'm busy on are the things that have to be me. And I feel much more productive. Same busy, just much more productive.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, is identify. Let me ask you a question. When you first started, you likely didn't have a very big staff, right?
No, well, when I first started, it was just me.
Right, exactly. And when you first started, I suppose you probably had a lot of anxiety about what happens if I get sick? What happens if something happens in my life that I can't run my business? Because it's just you. Your business was just you, right? So getting to that point where you can now, like at that peak stage where you can grow and you can hire people that can run your business so that you can afford to take this time away, because life doesn't pause and life situations are constantly happening. And that can be the death of a business if you are your business and you're not able to separate and delegate and have it run when you're not there.
Thank you for mentioning that, because you brought up something that I've been particularly focused on for the last, almost say hyper-focused on for the past few months. I realized some time ago, and again, this is something I think my executive assistants helped me to see, but also some reading I've done has kind of helped clarify this too, that I really thought we had good processes in place for our business. But it turns out that we actually have a lot of good people in our business, and the processes and systems are almost non-existent if those people are not in those positions.
Right.
And so I was like, this is a problem, because if I rely heavy on so-and-so and then he stops working for me for whatever reason, that process, it's gone. Like, we may not even know what he was doing. It was always up here. It wasn't documented. No one else could follow it. He did it perfectly, but if it ain't him, we're in trouble. And I was doing the same thing about me, which is, if my business is only working because it's me in the driver's seat, if I'm not the one in the driver's seat anymore, the business don't go anywhere, and that's a problem.
Right.
And so trying to figure out how to get my business to be much more systems and process based than people dependent has been a very humbling and eye-opening experience, to say the least. But it's been good. It's been a nice change of focus.
Well, and the beauty of it is, if you are an entrepreneur and you're at the stage where you want to grow and you want to expand and you want to hire, if you develop like a manual of processes of just documenting the things that you're doing that aren't reliant on you doing them, it's going to make it that much easier to hire somebody and onboard them. Yeah. And it becomes a piece that is absolutely, like, you can iterate on that, sure, but the point is that it becomes more flexible, right? So you're able to be, dynamic and responsive to any changes that might happen in your business.
Yeah, I mean, because I'm sure you hear this way more than I, but even I hear this a lot. I think they say it tongue in cheek, but the sad part is there's a lot of truth in it. Oh, I'm a business owner. I can't take vacation.
Right?
That's not a luxury I can afford. I can't go on vacation. Or even if they go on vacation, it's a working vacation.
Right.
I'll bring my phone and my laptop, and I might have to work while I'm sitting on the beach. I'm still going to be working all the time. It's like, I get it, but that's not much of a break.
No. And you know what? Some people like to have that, but I don't think we go into business when we're entrepreneurs. I don't think we go into business with the intention of not having a life anymore. I mean, that's the whole reason we go into business, so that we can design our own life and we can make it work for us rather than it working, rather than the other way around. So I think it's having that organization and that efficiency and those processes in place is really going to help businesses with being able to, like I said, to be nimble and be able to take time off and not worry that the place is going to burn down when they're not there.
I want to go back to your mountain analogy, because I just had a really cool thought, and I imagine this is something you get to experience a lot. I like the mountains and I like hiking, and it's an interesting phenomenon when you're hiking up a mountain or any kind of thing like that, and you see the peak. And you get to that peak and you realize it was a false summit. And there's actually another peak up there. And you're like, okay, I can do that. And you get to there and you realize there's another peak you couldn't see over there. So I'm wondering how often you help people see that they think they're at the peak and it's all proverbial downhill from there. But once they get a kind of different perspective, they actually realize there's another cool peak to conquer. They're not actually at the final peak.
Right. Well,
they've just ascended to where they can now see a new peak.
Well, and that's the analogy for a business owner, right? You set your goals, you set your visions, and once you get there, you have another goal and another vision for how to become even greater, right? It never stops. You never stop growing, and you never stop learning, and you never stop trying to be better, right? That's the way we are as human beings, and that's the way we are as business owners, is just constantly trying to improve. So
awesome. Anything else you would advise or suggest a business owner in this peak phase of their business consider or ask themselves or just kind of tackle?
No, I mean, like I said, it's really important if you want to optimize and you want to grow, that you kind of get those business processes in place. And sometimes it takes an outsider's perspective to help you do that, to get you to that goal of being able to take your vacation without worrying, you know. Sometimes you need help. That was the case with me and the dinghy. I mean, I needed help because I couldn't do it on my own, right? And then to really tick me off, my 12-year-old hops into it and goes flying across the lake. And I'm like, well, okay, so you're wired to do this and I'm not, and that's okay. So.
Okay, cool. So let's jump over to I think you call it the Transcend part of your phase of a business. You kind of define this a little bit as someone who's ready to look at an exit strategy, but is there any other attributes or signs that someone maybe is in the Transcend phase of their business?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say so. Transcendent, it is all around the exit strategy, but there are many different reasons that business owners will get to that phase. Sometimes they want to retire, or they're forced to retire because, you know, a health issue has happened or something like that, and they just don't have a choice. Sometimes it's because, okay, I've conquered this mountain and now I want to sell my business and go climb another one. I want to build something else. You know, there are serial entrepreneurs that are all about building, right? They don't want to stay in one place. They don't want to be the CEO. They want to be the founder and the builder and then give it to somebody else to run and then go start something else. So this is a really challenging phase for a lot of businesses because I don't think enough emphasis is put on the exit strategy when you're starting a business and when you're in that peak phase. Because a lot of times this exit strategy comes on the heels of a diagnosis or, you know, something that happens that forces you to close your business, and you haven't considered how you're gonna close out your business and what you're gonna do with it. Or sometimes you have kids and you just assume that your kids are going to take over your business, and then you find out that they have absolutely zero interest in taking over the family business, but they didn't want to hurt your feelings, so they didn't tell you that, you know. So I mean, I think it's really important, and it's really important to really grab that peak phase and really build all of those pieces so that when it comes time to transcend and move away from the business, whether by force or by choice, you're ready, because you've spent an inordinate amount of effort on your business. It's your baby. You've built this thing, and you don't just want to see it disappear. So you can sell it and you can make some money doing it. And if you do it the right way, you can make a lot of money doing it, getting rid of that business. So you have to build all of those pieces in before you get there, because when it comes time to exit your business, you need to be proactive and not reactive, or it's not going to work out well for you. I've seen a lot of business owners think that their business is worth significantly more than it actually is, only to be very disappointed and hinge their entire retirement on this, be very, very disappointed. And I tell you, that's not something you want to gamble on. Yeah. So.
Well, and it's interesting you mention that, because some of what I see is almost the opposite. And my heart breaks for these people, and I've never known what to say, although I think I might now, based on some of the things you said. But when I'm talking to a client or someone who's running a business, and they're like, pretty sure they're 1 or 2 years away from retirement is what they'll call it. And it's like, okay, well, you know, what's your goals? Do you want to try and sell the business? And they'll say some variation of my business isn't worth anything. It's only worth anything to me because I'm running it, but there's nothing for people to buy, right? This is a me-based business, and if I'm not the one in it, like there's nothing of value that anyone would buy. And I'm always like, like I can understand why they feel that way and why they think that, but I'm like, wonder how we could like help with that. And the only thought I had as you've been talking is, and kind of feeling embarrassed I never really thought about this until now, but it's kind of a concept of that's an evidence of a business that was very people-based. They didn't have a system or process, they just had a person, and the business was the person. And maybe before they try to exit the business, if they were to build systems and processes that anybody could come in and kind of, to use a Michael Gerber quote, turnkey operation, maybe then it creates value where there maybe previously wasn't any. I don't know. My heart breaks for the people. I feel like, oh yeah, I'm just going to dissolve it. It's not really worth anything to anyone else. Are you sure? There's nothing we can do.
Well, and one of the questions I would ask them, like there's a multitude of questions that you have to ask somebody before you start planning their exit strategy. But one of them is if they have a diversity of client base and they don't have 1 or 2 or 3 clients that are paying the entire bill and they're all, you know, the owner's best friends, sure, you know, then that's a different conversation. But really, that's one of the things that is worthy, because there are a lot of people that want to buy businesses right now, successful businesses, already standing businesses, because the stats are astronomical. I mean, your chances of success when you buy an already established business are at like 90%. Whereas if you're starting a business, they fail, like you have a 10% chance of making it past the first year, right? So, I mean, if you want to own a business, but you don't know, we go back to that launch phase. If you want to do a business, but you don't know what you want, you don't know what your passion is, consider buying an established business. You know, there are loans out there that are available for you to buy them. And I've been speaking with some business brokers. In the market to purchase businesses in Alberta is so high because we have the Alberta advantage where we don't have the PST. That's a huge drawing feature, you know, and Canada is generally cheaper as a place to do business as opposed to the States. So there's a lot of people that are both domestic and international that are looking to specifically buy Alberta businesses.
Interesting.
So just something for people to keep in mind, you know.
As far as buying an established business, would that also include like a franchise?
That I don't know. I don't know much about franchises.
I mean, like, for example, I know one that I see pop up a lot lately is Booster Juice. And it's like, well, it's one of those models where it's not like Booster Juice corporate that are running 150 locations. It's Mr. and Mrs. Business owner that says, I want to start a business, I want to run a business. I may not want the risk of trying to create something from scratch, so I'm going to be a franchise of an existing business that people already have, and there's already the like name recognition stuff too. And in theory, that's the idea, is that they're, again, this turnkey concept where they've already got all the processes and systems and roles defined. You just pay into the fee be a franchisor, and then you turn the key and run with it.
Yeah, so that's one option for buying a business, but you can also buy a business that's not a franchise too. I mean, like there's lots of trades is a great example of that right now, because there are so many trades people that are retiring right now because the boomer generation is retiring, and a lot of those trades people have businesses. They've established trades businesses, and their kids don't want the business, and they do have a business that is saleable. It's, you know, it just depends what you want to get yourself into, right? So there's always options.
I want to dive into what you said for a second. I know you mentioned a couple times, but let's dive into that. So if a business owner in this transcend phase are looking at a way out, have been hoping that one or more of their children or whatever would take over, and they're not really that interested, but they're willing, or they're not really that interested, but they want a job, and so it's something. Is that something that like the owner should like not touch with a 10-foot pole. Like, it's not necessarily the best idea to give the reins to your well-established business to a child who's really not that interested but is willing? Or how would you advise someone in that situation?
Well, I would say, first of all, that I would never give my business to anybody. They would need to buy into it, because the funny thing about human beings is if they get something for free, they don't value it as much.
Sure.
Right? So if you have a stake in if you have a stake in the game, then you're more likely to put effort into its success. So, first off, I would say don't give it to your kids. Make them buy into it. Because the other thing is, if you staked your entire life into a business and this is your retirement plan and you just give it away, well, what's financing your retirement at that point? So you're gonna rely on your kid to pay for your trips to Cancun? Not gonna happen. I mean, so you need to get some money out of that business so that you can afford to live the life that you want when you're retired, right? So I would very much caution them not to give it away.
Good advice. Any other kind of suggestions, advice, comments you would make to someone in that transcend phase looking for an exit?
Well, talking to a business broker is always a good idea, and really doing your planning ahead of time and really being realistic about your expectations when you're selling your business would also be a really high piece of advice I would give. If you've got all the groundwork done and you've done all the right things, then your expectations shouldn't be too off par from what you should expect to get for your business. But a lot of people are very surprised when they find out what their business is worth, because they're
usually unpleasantly surprised.
Yeah, because they have these expectations that, well, my business should be worth $50 million. Okay, well, to you it is, but that's not always the case. So just make sure that you're realistic about what you're expecting.
Okay.
And setting yourself up.
And you've already kind of alluded to this too, but if initially when I was looking at what you do and we were talking about it, I was thinking it's very like step 1, step 2, step 3. But this could be very much a circular situation, as you kind of alluded to. We could get through all 3 of these phases and then we start again. I don't even know what question I want to ask, I guess. It's a unique, like a different way to think about it, that this is not a starting a straight line and an ending, but this can be a very circular process of business phase. Is that, what do you say, that's fair?
It could be, yeah. I mean, it depends on the person, right? Because like a serial entrepreneur is constantly going to want it, like we were talking about before. They're going to want to just keep building new businesses and building. But the beauty of it is, with each iteration, you get better, right? Because you learn from your previous iterations. So it becomes, again, the more businesses you start, the more efficiently you run them and start them up, because you're learning along the way. So
I have learned a lot. So I very much appreciate you being here. Anything else that you're like burning to talk about or kind of tell with regards to what you do, or to the people that are listening on the podcast here? Anything else that's kind of like burning in your mind that you want to make sure that you talk about?
No, I just really want to instill in business owners that you need to be intentional, and you can design the business exactly the way you want it to be if you're intentional and you put in the effort.
Okay. I was going to give you a chance to say anything, like, if people get nothing outside of this podcast, what's like the most important thing you hope to get from today? Was that it, or was there anything else you want to add? Key takeaway.
Organization is way more important than you think it is in a business. Being organized.
Okay. How do people get in touch with you if they want to engage you for your services, or just find out more about kind of how you do what you do? What's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
I'm on LinkedIn, and I also have a website. It's launchpeaktranscend.com. There's a contact form that they can fill out there to get in touch with me. And I also have email, info@launchpeaktranscend.com.
Perfect. I know we kind of started here, but I want to kind of end here as well. when I was looking at what you wanted to talk about, and I was like, the first thing says, I want to talk about my why. Mm-hmm. And then my mind immediately went to one of my favorite books and favorite speakers, Simon Sinek, who's all about the start with why and focus on that. And I imagine that's probably something that you are very familiar with. But I think I want to end with where we started. Let's revisit your why, because I think more important than what you do, which is really cool, is why you're doing it. And so maybe let's just revisit that why. Kind of, as we kind of exit and end the podcast recording, can you kind of leave us with your why again?
Well, I mean, it's exactly why I called myself a success strategist, because that's exactly what I do. I help business owners with their strategy to achieve success, because there's nothing that lights me up more than seeing that aha moment with a business owner and them taking the reins and really just loving that, bringing that passion back into their business.
Okay. So you hear that? If you wanted some aha moments, if you want clarity, if you identify with any aspect of the business phases that we talked about today, Laina would be a good person for you to reach out to and get in touch with. Again, thank you, Laina, for being here on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks for watching, everyone. Have a good day.
You've been listening to the BusinessSpeak Podcast featuring Mr. Chill. Be sure to subscribe and add us to your podcast library to ensure you never miss an episode. We love hearing from our listeners. If you have a topic or question you'd like us to discuss, would like to be a guest on our show, or would otherwise like to get in touch with us, please visit our website at businessspeak.ca. Thanks for listening to BusinessSpeak, the language of business simplified.